Krista Thompson, you are the past CEO of Covenant House, which is a remarkable organization in the way in which you support so many others. When you were in that position, what did your job look like? Like, what did you do? Because people go, oh yeah, you're the boss. But you're the boss of what? And what kind of, elements of your day would arise at a moment's notice?
That's a great question. And by the way, there's a wonderful new CEO at Covenant House Vancouver, whose name is Deb Lester, who I'd love you to meet. I think because of my passion and empathy for at-risk kids, my entire day was oriented around one thing, and that was outcomes, what we call outcomes. Are young people going to be better off because of how we work with them today than they were yesterday? Simple as that. Yeah. So if you have that one kind of driving vision, and if you're a restaurateur, it's going to be that my customers have the best cuisine, best eating experience of their life. Mm-hmm. For me, it's these kids are going to have the best outcomes possible. So what does that look like? And you kind of reverse engineer it from there. So
but it could be making sure that the electrical bill is paid. Well, like even though you say, well, are you actually doing the accounting? But no, but ultimately that comes back through you.
Well, I don't think there's a CEO in the world that isn't responsible for bringing money to the table. Yeah. Every CEO is somewhere along the line is raising money, and so that was a good 30% of my job. I also had a great team of people who helped me do that and did their own fundraising and were spectacularly successful. As a CEO, my job was to bring them the tools they needed, my staff, the incredible people that we worked with, bring them the tools that they needed to ensure young people had great outcomes. That's a big part of the job. And so, you also want to, you have town halls with staff, and you have meetings with them, and you conduct yourself in a certain way that resonates with the goal. I love working with kids. You love working with kids. Isn't it fun to be working with kids together? How do we find more of you? How do we find more people that are passionate? How do we set the bar high in this organization and make sure that love and respect are in our lexicon every single day?
It's an organization, though, that has to be very, very adaptable to meet the needs of the people who are, coming to you for assistance, which changes with each person. So is adaptability or openness to changing approaches a big part of that leadership role?
It's a very interesting question. And I part of me wants to say yes. The other part of me wants to say focus is actually really important. So, if you start spreading yourself too thin in the work that we do, where you start to drift off mission, maybe offering programs that really aren't in your sweet spot in terms of the work that you do. It's important for the CEO to be able to be sort of on the conning tower and sort of see when you're starting to leak a little bit to the left or right. It's very important that you're looking out over the horizon and ensuring that there's the reefs and the shoals that are out there you're going to avoid. So you have to spend a certain amount of your time, like actually, sort of scanning the horizon. Right. Whereas when your teams are actually working, at the front line day to day, my eyes might be aimed at something a little bit different. Oh. Contemplation and having the luxury of time to contemplate and reflect, where you need to go next. How do you see a fentanyl crisis coming at you, and how then are we going to position our organization to deal with that, to make sure that we're in the right spot in order to help the most kids with that particular issue. So it's kind of cool, actually. And if you like big picture thinking, being a CEO is really fun.
Okay, but you didn't go to some post-secondary institution that says, yeah, I want to be the CEO of a caring and giving organization. How'd you get there?
Well, when you're young, you don't necessarily think that far ahead. I mean, when I was 16, all I could think about was making money because I didn't have any. My family was a mess, and out on my own at a very, very young age. Death of parents being the primary cause, and so I needed to make money. I went to BCIT because it was a 2-year program. It was the least amount of money. I didn't have to stick around there very long, and I have a ticket to some kind of job that was going to start earning me money. I picked marketing and communications because I was a good talker. So I thought, good, okay, that'll work. And so I went to BCIT, learned how to do marketing and sales, basically. And through that, a few years later, on my mission to make $1 million, went to work in the brokerage business, which makes sense, right? There's money there.
Yeah.
People can make lots of money being a broker. I did that for almost 10 years. I learned a ton about money.
And people.
And people, very much so. And at the same time, I was starting to do volunteer work with at-risk kids because it had always been my passion, given my own background. And the more volunteer work I did, the more I thought, I think I need to do a career change here because I really wasn't getting the joy that I was getting from the volunteer work. So I basically took a huge pay cut, and that takes some courage as well because I had little kids at the time. Yeah, but I had enough to live on, and I decided to use my, I was great at raising money for corporations in the brokerage business. Why not raise money for good causes and just it's the same skill set, really is.
Was it easier raising money for good causes?
It's a hell of a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Easier, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not quite as tangible a product. When you're selling stocks, you've got dividend income, and you've got potential capital growth, and you could make somebody money. Here, I'm selling something intangible that helps people feel good, but also sort of says to them, if I invest in these homeless kids, maybe my community will be better off. Maybe when we're all better off, we're all better off. So I'm getting people excited about the possibility of a young life and changing the trajectory of a young life. I think that's pretty cool. And I spent almost 17 years doing that work, and there probably wasn't a day that I didn't love it. Like seriously, you got to get up every morning and just like, when can I go to work?
I know that
Seriously.
feeling. Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah.
What was the essential or most important personality trait that you have that you think helped you to be successful at this?
Well, I think, nothing happens without money, right? So I think the percentage of my time that I spent raising money was about meeting people, speaking to that part of them that cares, that empathizes, and telling great stories.
Yeah.
I think, like you're a great storyteller. You appreciate great stories. I love telling stories, and I love being that bridge, to people who want to help and don't know what to do with people who need help, and creating that catalyst for all that wonderful dynamic that happens for people who feel so good about what they're doing, and for young people who are making huge strides in their life. It's a pretty darn cool place to sit. And as a CEO of a nonprofit, you're going to spend time telling stories about your work, and they need to be compelling. And I think people could see how excited and moved I was by it. And I think if you could be authentic in your storytelling, and I cried all the time. I still do. I cry all the time when I talk about the work. People kind of go, maybe we should just write her a check so she stops crying. That's not fair to say that, because I think fundraising actually is a pretty sophisticated business.
Yes.
But it's so important for at least a component of funding to be fundraising. Let's match it with government funding. Let's match it with corporate funding too, and let's all work together on some of these problems.
Well, congratulations on a great career, and thanks for
highly recommend it.
Thanks for giving us a little window into your life.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Thank you.